Hi, I'm Ryan, your Chief Espresso Officer, and today I'm going to take you on a little trek all the way to the other side of the world to a little country not really known for its specialty coffee, but very much so punching above its weight, Costa Rica. Costa Rica is an amazing little country located near the equator in Central America. And it's famous for its jungles and its volcanoes, very, very active soil there. And one of the beautiful things about this place is that the sun always rises and sets at exactly the same time every day because of its location near the equator. Some of the most iconic animals live there too, like tapirs and your sloths and your toucans and the capuchin monkeys. So if you remember my other video on how the cappuccino got its name, you'll remember that it was named after the capuchin monks. And similar to the capuchin monks are these capuchin monkeys, which are also named after those hooded monks because they have a little chocolate covering right on their head. And what's even more exquisite than the jungles of Costa Rica is the marine life, because the water is so pure and rich with magnesium and calcium. In fact, Costa Rica is actually known as one of the only five blue zones in the world. And a blue zone, for those of you who don't know, is where the natural lifespan of humans is a lot longer than anywhere else. So if you're living in Nicoya, the region of Costa Rica that's considered a blue zone, it's not unlikely that you'll live to 90 plus years. In fact, you'd be expected to live at least to 90. So, with the magnesium and calcium rich water, the purest water that you can get, you can imagine how beautiful the irrigation is for the coffee trees there, and then how much of that translates into a tasty, delicious cup. Now, coffee and Costa Rica have been inextricably linked since 1821, when it got its independence from Spain. In fact, on the eve of the independence, the government distributed free coffee seeds all over the country just to try and bolster the economy. And since 1843, Costa Rica have been shipping coffee all over the world and is the 14th ranked largest coffee distributor in the world. Yet, how many of you actually have tried or know that much about Costa Rican coffee? So hopefully by doing these videos, you and other people will get more understanding of Costa Rica and how beautiful the coffee is from this country. And there's a lot of unknowns about Costa Rica, because when the coffee shift changed from having just bitter, standard coffee to doing high quality and specialty coffee, Costa Rican producers were among the very first people to make that change. And they invented something of a secret, which I'll tell you about in a moment, one of the very first processing methods that we now recognize as being a fantastic new way of processing coffee. Of a population of about 5 million people, incredibly 10% are coffee farmers, which is amazing because they produce and share and distribute coffee all over the world, and they come together in small little, what is called cooperatives, because a lot of people only have a small farm, maybe a couple of hectares where they can grow the coffee for themselves, but they've got no way to process the coffee. So together, they join forces, bring all the coffees to the mill, compile them, and get evenly paid, which helps out if someone's crop isn't as great as someone else's. They still receive almost the same amount of money. The farmers are so engaged with their coffee that in one particular instance, in 2006, one farmer, Juan Ramon Alvarado, entered 2 coffees into a competition. And they were using a partly washed method and a partly natural fermentation method. And when the coffees took home first and second place, people began to be interested in what this processing method was that brought out all of these brilliant, bright, intense flavors. And as they discovered, he had left a bit of the mucilage on the actual cherry seed itself. So normally they get that completely washed off. But he created what we now refer to as honey washed processing. And it's such a popular method these days that almost everywhere around, if you look in specialty coffees from Colombia, Brazil, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Even Africa, you're finding these honey-washed processed coffees that Juan himself invented in 2006. So we have a lot to thank for the Costa Rican coffee community. And the honey process method is exactly the same method used to produce this month's coffee from Costa Rica, from the farm that we got them from, Sierra Los Vindes. So let's talk about this limited edition Costa Rican from Sierra Los Vindes. It's a beautiful farm located in the Tarrazú mountainous regions where three brothers in 1967 got together and bought the hectares of land off the rancher. They continued to produce milk and cheese as the rancher did for the 1,500 inhabitants of Palmajal, which is the district, until 1969 when they planted some seedlings of coffee on the steep slopes of the volcanoes there called Tari Mountains. And if somebody out there from the region can help me correct that pronunciation, please do write in and let me know how to correctly pronounce Tari Mountains. But the three brothers, Leonel, Gerardo, and Eduardo, all got together and they've been able to pay not only for their families' well-beings, but also put their children through education, like in the case of Leonel, who was able to pay for his daughter's education in becoming a physical therapist. Now, most of the people thought it was crazy to start seedlings on the sides of this active volcano. But the brothers had a different idea and they had a vision. They thought that the active volcanic soil combined with the nice gentle breeze that came off the Pacific and the relatively dry climate would be perfect for growing some Catuai and Caturra. And so these three brothers took their visions to the sides of these slopes at 1,450 meters above sea level and planted the Catuai and Caturra varieties there and used these new processing methods that Juan had invented, the red honey in particular, which leaves about 90% of the mucilage on the cherry itself. And they've created quite a great business just from that. So all of those people who didn't believe in the coffee being grown on the side of the mountains now are thankful for these guys creating this really, really successful farm. And luckily for me and for you, we get to consume this coffee exactly as it was meant to be processed from the great volcanic slopes of Costa Rica. And I think it's time for us to consume some coffee right now. So let's get to it. All right, let's try it. Oh wow, that's so fruity. It's like there's a bowl of fruit salad in there. That's beautiful. And it's just so velvety on my tongue, like it just sits there. I would say the acidity is quite bright, quite acidic. I think that's going to really translate nicely to milk. Yeah, because of that beautiful body, that's really just sitting nicely with milk and I'm getting a lot of that fruits coming through. So very, very, very beautiful on milk, this coffee. So let's now recap this beautiful coffee from Sierra Los Vindes. The farm itself is located in Palmajal, which is a region in San Jose. And the coffee itself is grown at 1,450 meters above sea level. We're looking at some Caturra and some Catuai. We have a red honey processed coffee. And we're looking at flavors of rich, strong, intense berries with citric acidity and a beautiful velvety feel on your tongue. So that's it for me this week. I'm Ride, your Chief Espresso Officer. Enjoy your brew.